YouTube, what is going on? Welcome back to another Identity V video. As you guys all know, it is a new season, which means new tier list. And I know you guys are all asking about the new Hunter, Percy, Undead, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, essentially how good he is and where he fits in on the tier list and all that sort of stuff. We're going to get into that a little bit later in the video. He's not in C tier, so we're not going to start off with him. But I do have S tier, A tier, A-, B, and C tier for you guys. Yeah, without further ado, let's get into the first tier, which is C tier. So the first hunter in C tier, and has always been kind of the worst hunter in the game for a while, unfortunately, that is Ember. And while Ember is actually technically not a bad hunter, there's some top Embers who do very well with him and are very hard to beat. However, while Ember may not be a terrible hunter, he struggles the most out of every hunter in the game. And most of it just pretty much comes down, and I've said this in all of my past tier list videos, most of it comes down to his early game chase. Ember, once he has presence, is very strong. He has good map control. He can throw his puppets across the map. He can switch places with them. He's got the phantoms, which he can, you know, sandwich survivors. He can trap survivors. He can stuff rescues by, you know, double hitting the incoming person. If it's a mercenary, you can double hit them. If it's a regular rescuer, you can sometimes stuff them by using your phantom. You know, hit them with a regular attack, and then the phantom hits them, and you can stuff the rescue. But yeah, Ember is really good camp. It's just his early game chase. And the only way he gets phantoms is through stuns, so a lot of Embers walk through pallets for that. But you do have Blink to help you out. Some Embers do run insolence, some don't. But for the most part, that's the biggest issue with Ember, is he struggles early game. But again, once he has that presence built up, he has very good map control. He can throw those puppets very far. He has the phantoms to trap survivors. He has good chase once his presence is built up. He has good camp once he gets it down. And yeah, but again, the reason why Ember's C tier is his early game chase is you know, very suboptimal, not as strong as it needs to be a top hunter. The next hunter in C tier is Evil Reptilian, Lizard. Lizard, again, this is, and guys, I know I say this, this is super repetitive. You guys saw my last tier list video, I said the exact same things. The reason why a lot of hunters are lower tier is because their early game chase is not very strong. And that is the same thing with Evil Reptilian. His early game chase is not very strong. A good survivor will be able to kite him for a good survivor. Okay, will be able to kite him for 3 ciphers. Like it's just that's the biggest issue with the Reptilian. Also, you know, another thing is he doesn't have a damaging ability. And I know people have talked about this, but hunters without damaging abilities in the early game usually tend to struggle, right? So Ember doesn't really have any abilities. Reptilian doesn't have a damaging ability. He can jump, but survivors can just see him jump and then revault the window or vault the pallet or kind of transition out of there and get away from his jump and avoid it. So that's simply why Reptilian is just in C tier. His chase early game is very suboptimal. Some Reptilians do use Blink, but I know a lot of them now use Peepers. It's better for, you know, map pressure and cipher control. You can drop Peeper on a cipher. It helps with camp as well. And a little bit with chase. It slows the survivor down a little bit, so... but once Reptilian actually gets it down, he has pretty good map presence. He can get around the map quickly using his jumps. Especially with full presence, he actually has very good camp. Evil Reptilian, his you know, body slam lethal crash hitbox is very large, so it is very hard to avoid that when he goes up for a jump when you're trying to go for a save. And Reptilian is actually a very good hunter for stuffing saves. It is a lot harder to save off him than it seems. But again, the reason why... So, he has good map pressure late game. He has very good camp. The problem is his early game is very subpar, as his chase is not very good, and that is why he's a C tier hunter. The next hunter in C tier is Gamekeeper. This is the last hunter in C tier. I believe last tier list had Gamekeeper in B tier or something like that. I don't know. I don't remember... I don't remember things very well. You guys know me. I'm pretty clueless. But anyways, Gamekeeper I have currently in C tier. And the reason for that is the amount of Gamekeeper. There were a few Gamekeepers that were top tier last season and used a little bit, but you know, over time they've just sort of dropped down and become less and less strong. You know, Gamekeeper is just not where he needs to be. However, I've heard something about buffing him by giving him traps. That could be interesting, but we're not talking about that because that's not out yet, I'm pretty sure. So I'm not sure when it'll be out, but we don't have to worry about that. We're talking about current Gamekeeper, and current Gamekeeper, all he has is his hook. Now, I know a lot of you guys are like, oh my god, Eli, his hook is so broken. It's such a big hitbox. Like, I could be across the map and it goes through 25 walls and whatever, and it still hits me. And yes, that is true. It can go through 25 walls and hit you at a 45-degree angle. But the problem is top survivors will know how to not through walls, but like through half walls. I'm exaggerating when I say walls, but they're like half-heighted walls. So like, for example, Moonlit River Park, if you're in tent, and you have like the, you know, in the tent it has the little chairs that block the hunter off. You can hook over that, right? So, or anything that's like a half wall. You can hook over some barrels as well on certain maps. I don't know. Anyways, but that's the biggest problem with Gamekeeper. The biggest problem with Gamekeeper is actually not his chase isn't too bad, but again, a lot of top survivors do know how to kite him. They know how to dodge those hooks pretty well. His camp is pretty good. You can force after half rescues. If a survivor goes in for a save, you can hook them and then pull them back away from the chair and sometimes prevent them from getting the rescue off in time. You can also terror shock survivors with the hook, which will actually get you an instant down on a mercenary, believe it or not, because it does a terror shock does half the damage of a normal, or terror shock does the damage of a normal attack. So even if it's not double damage, it's damage of a normal attack. So if you hit someone with a quarter damage on your hook, because once he has presence, he does a quarter damage, it will do an extra half, and then plus a regular hit is 1 full damage plus an extra quarter of health, which is enough to kill a mercenary even. So pretty good, right? So Gamekeeper's camp is pretty good, but the biggest issue is his cipher control and his map pressure. He has very, very subpar map pressure, very, very subpar cipher control. And that's why you see a lot of Gamekeepers use peepers. This can help with dropping a peeper on a cipher here and there. But for the most part, that is the biggest weakness with Gamekeeper, is his map control is very bad and his cipher control is really bad. Pretty good chase, strong camp, but very minimal cipher control. He just gets cipher rushed so hard, and that is why Gamekeeper is a C tier hunter. Moving on to the next tier, which is B tier, yeah, let's just get straight into B tier. The first hunter in B tier, and I know this is going to be very controversial, right? Because we don't really know how this new hunter is going to play into rank matches and all this. It is the new hunter. First hunter in B tier is Percy, Undead, the new hunter. I personally think he's a low B tier hunter. I don't think he's very good, and I'm going to explain why. Again, guys, this is just my opinion. No one knows for sure. We've been able to test him, you know, play around with him, but we haven't really seen how he's going to develop into any sort of tournament gameplay or rank gameplay yet. So we're still waiting on that. But the reason why I think he is a B tier hunter is because his chase, while it may seem super exhilarating and super fun and have a lot of, you know, upsides and whatever, I don't think it's very good. It might be good on a few maps. It could be good. Ever Sleeping Town, I think it could be very strong. On Moonlit River Park, I think it could be very strong. Lakeside Village, it could possibly be very strong, but in certain tight cutting areas it might be difficult. But I think on a lot of maps, like Church, Arms Factory, Hospital, Leo's Memory, I think it isn't very good on those maps. And the reason why is he can only dash straight, right? So in a lot of areas where it's like, you know, confined areas, and hard to, and looping areas, he just gets looped. Any area where you can loop is so difficult for him to get downs. And I'm going to talk a lot about it. I will talk about this hunter right now more than the other hunters, just because we don't really, you know, that's the most important thing for right now. And I know you guys are really want to know about the new hunter, but his chase isn't very good on a lot of maps because he just gets looped. Additionally, once you actually get a down with him, it's not like, obviously you don't put him on chair, right? You slug the survivor and you leave him on the ground. That's his ability. But the biggest issue with him is you can't afford to camp because you get cipher rush so hard, because healing and being on a rocket chair is different, right? Being on a rocket chair goes by quicker for the most part, and when you're slugged, it takes longer. So that gives more time for the survivors to decode, and the cipher rush is significantly better against that hunter. Well, yes, his chase is okay. I think top survivors will be able to kite him very easily, though. His chase is okay. He doesn't obviously really hat camp. His map pressure is very good. He gets around the map very fast because those dashes recharge so fast. You can literally get across the map in seconds without even having teleport. And that's very strong. However, again, his chase against top survivors is going to be very subpar. His second ability, where you charge up and you can stun them or one-shot them, that almost never works. You can use that in certain areas to maybe if you're able to trap a survivor, you can maybe pull it off. But it's rare that works. The survivor's usually able to dodge it in time. So, because he stops moving, like with Wu Chang's bell. Because I guess, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, let's compare it to Wu Chang's bell, right? Wu Chang's bell is so broke, blah, blah, blah. But this is different. Wu Chang instantly bells, and he keeps walking towards the survivor. Percy has to stand still, and the survivor will see them charging up, and see the radius of where it is. You can't see the bell radius. You have to predict it. You have to predict when he's going to use the bell, and the hunter keeps walking. None of those things happen with Percy. He has to stand still. You can see the lines of where he's using the attack or the ability, and it takes him a second to charge it up. Even to just do a regular stun, it takes a second, right? So that's the problem with him. But overall, yeah, the biggest problem with Percy is he gets Cypher Rushed very hard. Because bleeding out takes longer. Even with his increased bleeding out time or whatever it is, it still takes too long. And I know a lot of people are like, oh my god, this hunter's going to be so unfun to play against because you get slugged. Yes, that may be true, but again, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, but I don't think he's very good just because he gets Cypher Rushed very hard, and a lot of top survivors are able to kite him significantly well. Those are my opinions on Percy, why he's a low B tier hunter. Guys, let me know in the comment section below what you think of him. And where you think he should be on the tier list. Again, this is my opinion. I've discussed this with many friends who are top players, and they share very similar opinions to me as well. And we're trying to figure out for ourselves, right, how he's going to turn out. But let me know in the comment section below what you think of the new hunter. Your experiences kiting him, your experiences playing him. I really would appreciate that. But yeah. Without further ado, let's move on to a new hunter. We're going to go through this a little bit quicker now. I'm sorry it took so long on him, but he's a new hunter, so it's good to talk about. The next hunter in B tier is Anne Disciple. Anne has good chase if you know what you're doing. She can be very hard to kite sometimes. Essentially, once you get catted, you have to either dodge the cat, or you have to like get catted, vault the window or pallet or something, and then kind of transition away before she can get her jump on you, and kind of have something. Always have an object between you and the Anne so she can't jump on you. When she first came out, her camp was very good, and survivors didn't really know how to rescue off her, and she could stuff saves. But now a lot of survivors have kind of figured out how to rescue up an Anne. You just simply have to go early, make her use that cross really early, kind of just wait it out, and then go in for the rescue. So you go early, which forces her to cat early, and put up the cross early. But then you just kind of wait out the cats, and then go in for the save after that. So Anne's camp, while it's still very strong, it's not as strong as it used to be because survivors know how to save off her. And the biggest problem with Anne is she gets Cypher Rushed so hard. It's the same thing with Gamekeeper. Anne has almost no map pressure whatsoever. It's even worse, actually, because Gamekeeper can hook and pull himself around the map. Anne can technically jump on the cats and get a speed and but that doesn't really do anything. On top of that, she can't run peepers. Usually run teleport or blink with her. Whereas Gamekeeper, you can peeper Cypher machines to slow them down, but with Anne, you can't do that. So Anne's chase is very strong, but it can be kited. Her camp is strong, but not as strong as it used to be because survivors know how to beat her, and her Cypher control is very suboptimal, and that is why she is a B tier hunter. The next hunter in B tier is Joseph the Photographer. Now, Photo used to be very good. When he first came out, no one knew how to beat it. He was S tier, and over time, survivors pretty much just figure out how to beat Photographer, and he's just kind of fallen lower and lower on the rankings every season. And he's a B tier hunter now. We're gonna go through this quickly, but and I know some of you may disagree with me on this, but when I see a photo in rank, I usually get pretty happy. It's usually, even if the photo has like a really good start, he finds 3 people in Photo World, it still ends up being a tie for usually, just because Photo, he can control Cypher Rush, but his chase is not very good. So even if you get it down on a survivor, like you damage someone in Photo World and then you blink them and get them down, the problem with Photographer is you get rebound kiting because he has no chase abilities, right? He has no chase abilities. So once you get it down on someone, you go in for the rescue, the person will rebound kite you so hard because you're basically just like a hell Ember with no abilities walking around. And it's so hard to get somebody down. Also, on top of that, to make it even worse, he can get juked easily. That's not really a big deal, but it could help with kiting, and technically, so just something to keep in mind. But that's the problem. Again, his photo gets rebound kited. He just gets kited because he has no abilities. That's the biggest issue with him. In lower tiers, Photo is very strong because survivors don't know how to heal properly against them and play properly against them and save in Photo World and all that kind of stuff and hide from him in Photo World. But the problem is it doesn't, in top tiers, survivors know exactly what they're doing. They can kite him, they can play around his Photo World for the most part. Also, another thing is survivors, when they go down, when they get hit with Tide Turner, you can go die in the Photo World, and the Photographer can't share you until the entire Photo World collapses, and that just buys you even more time. So a Photo could have a perfect start, and it usually will end up being a tie. If they have a suboptimal start, it's just a loss for the Photo, and that's pretty much, in top tiers, the best Photographers can really do is tie. Sometimes survivors will make mistakes, and they'll be able to win, but for the most part, Photo is just not very strong, and he's a B tier hunter. The next hunter in B tier actually moved up. I think I had either, which is Geisha. And I'm pretty sure I had Geisha in either C tier or low B tier. But now she's actually high B tier. With her buff, she actually got significantly stronger. And she could, at some point maybe even be A minus. We'll see. I'm not really sure how it will play out. So far, we haven't had too many problems with Geisha. But her new buff is very strong. Again, Geisha mains are still trying to figure out, how to use the butterflies properly into the best of their advantages and all those kind of strategies and stuff. But for the most part, Geisha is a very strong... This is a pretty strong hunter right now. She's not too bad. Her chase is very good with those butterflies. You can't really skill check her anymore, which is what you used to be able to do. You can, however, pick up the butterfly and then skill check her, which is a pretty good way to counter her. Geisha's always been one of those hunters where she has a built-in counter, and that's one way. Pick up a butterfly and skill check. But now that you have butterflies, Geisha's map pressure is a lot better. She can get around the map a lot quicker. Her chase is better, essentially. And that's pretty much it. So Geisha's chase is pretty good. If you know how to kite her, if you know how to kite her on the butterflies, it can be a problem. It could be a problem for Geishas in top tiers. However, it is a lot harder. Survivors haven't adapted yet, and Geisha is a lot stronger now because of that. Geisha's camp is just pretty normal. She can jump up and do the thing where she drops down and hits with no attack recovery, but that usually doesn't work. Survivors can usually... A good rescuer will be able to avoid that. So Geisha just has average camp for the most part. And her map pressure is a little bit better now that she can dash around the map, and she usually runs teleport. So overall, Geisha, based off of that, is just simply a B tier hunter. Not much else to say. Moving on to the next hunter in B tier, and the last hunter in B tier, this is Clown. Now, Clown is... Clown used to be very good. He slowly fell down over time. I think at some point I had him an A or A minus tier. But now Clown is simply B tier. I hate to say it because I love Clown. Such a fun hunter to play. I used to main Clown. I don't play him anymore because I don't think he's too good right now. But there are some top Clowns that are successful, such as Mystic. But, the biggest problem with Clown is he takes so long to get kind of set up, right? So you have to walk around. You have to pick up your parts. You usually have to put them on 3 propellers because a lot of Clowns, I think, are banning... Mechanic or Seer or whatever, so you don't really... So you do have a Mercenary, and you want to put in a slow drill in case you dash into the Mercenary. And that's the biggest issue with Clown, is he takes so long to get set up in the early game. He has to walk around to the closest Cypher, pick up a Propeller, Wildlings, and Modified Drill, put on all 3 parts, and then dash around the map. And then even when he's dashing, he can just get rotated. And you have to have insanely good controls, and on certain maps, it's just so hard to keep the controls going. I mean, he's very good on, like, Lakeside, Moonlit, stuff like that, but on other maps it can be a lot more difficult, like Arms Factory, Hospital. It can be a lot harder for Clown. But Clown has good chase if you know what you're doing. If you have good controls with Clown, he has very, very strong chase if you have good controls. He actually has very good camp, in that he can stuff a rescue with a Terror Shock if you time that rocket dash very well. He can double hit Clown can double hit rescuers very well because you dash them and then you hit the rescuer again because you have no attack recovery because you dash them, right? Which is really cool. So you can dash them, hit them again for a second time, and then eventually dash the person who got rescued. So Clown is very good for double hitting, and if you had a modified drill, it takes them a long time to heal, so it buys you a lot of time. But if you don't manage to double hit rescuer as a Clown, you usually just end up tying or losing just because you get Cypher Rushed. Clown gets Cypher Rushed. That's the biggest problem with him. And, he does have good map pressure when he can use those infinite rocket dashes. He just can't get Cypher Rush. It's just that simple. Because he is kind of forced to camp most of the time. And Clown can get kited. Unless you have insanely good controls, Clown can get kited as well. And that's the biggest issue with Clown. He also gets countered. Actually, let me be more specific. The biggest issue with him is there's a lot of survivors that counter him. Okay, so Seer is strong against him. Priestess is a hard counter to Clown. Yes, Clown can dash through the portals, but it cancels his infinite dash, which means Priestess can essentially get away and start kiting. Cowboy can lasso over the dash. Prospector is actually very good. And I know some of you guys might say, oh, the Prospector can't use his magnet time. That's actually not true. So if you're a Prospector, you magnet him, and then you attract into a wall, and it cancels the dash. And it's as simple as that. So there are quite a few, survivors that can counter Clown, and that is why he's a B tier hunter. Moving on to the next tier, this is A minus tier, and the first hunter in A minus tier, we're gonna try to go quickly through this, is Ripper. Jack the Ripper, used to be S tier, then he was A tier, now he's slowly down to A minus tier. I think I had him in B tier last season, but I think he's not. I think he just does deserve A minus tier at least this season. Ripper is hard to kite. He has good chase. He can Foggy Blade you through walls. You know, he can double hit someone, you know, instantly. He can Foggy Blade them and follow with a second hit because he gets the speed boost when they go in the fog. You know, he has very good camp. He can Foggy Blade a rescuer and then, you know, second hit them and stuff a save if you catch him from a distance. He's invisible when he has presence, which makes him very hard to kite. But the biggest problem with the Ripper is his map control isn't... He gets Cypher Rush. His map pressure isn't too strong. You do run Peepers with him usually, so you can go Peeper Cypher Machines. And Ripper's better at this than something like Gamekeeper, because when he turns invisible, he's very fast. So you can essentially race to a Cypher, drop a Peeper, and then race back to the chair in time. And that's not bad. But the biggest issue is it's not as strong as other Hunter Cypher control. And again, so Ripper has good chase, although good survivors can kite a Ripper. He has very good camp, just the map control, and he gets Cypher Rushed. That is the biggest issue with Ripper and why he is in A- tier and not A tier. The next hunter in A- tier is Spider Soulweaver. Soulweaver is a very fun character to play. And I think she is very strong. Soulweaver has very, very good chase because she's very fast, right? So she can drop all the webs. The problem is she's been nerfed so much where her webs used to recharge very fast, and now they recharge very slow, which is difficult for her. However, it's still not the end of the world. Spider is a very hard hunter to kite. Although, again, top survivors know how to kite her. But a good Spider, you know, can also, you know, play around that and essentially down them very quickly if they use their webs properly. It's all about a mind game. Spider is a mind game hunter when you're chasing people, right? You have to put down your webs, and you got to go super fast and kind of go back and forth around tight cutting areas and try to get them to vault pallets. Sometimes you can even catch them off guard and get a terror shock. Even against, I've seen top survivors just get terror shocked by Spider because of how fast she is. They're just not expecting it, you know. So Spider's chase is very good. Her camp is decent. I mean, you can web shot a rescuer and then hit them and get 3/4 damage, which is not bad. Usually can't stuff rescues with Spider. But it's not the end of the world. Sometimes you can double hit. Sometimes you can, you know, if you web shot them from a distance, web shot them a second time and then hit them again and stuff to save. You can also set up your presence bar where, you know, you have a 1/4 damage left to get full presence. So you web shot, goes up to full presence, you get web shot back. You web shot them again because you just got it back and it has no cooldown because you reach full presence. And then you hit them regularly and you can stuff a rescue that way, you know, or double hit a mercenary. So that's pretty good for Spider. You know, the web shot's also, you know, very good for slowing down survivors, and it also gives you vision, like if you have a peeper. It can also, you know, knock a Grave Peeper out of digging. You know, it can knock off a Seer Owl. It can do a few things. So, Spider, the biggest problem with Spider, also, and why she's not A tier, and this is, again, a common theme, is she gets Cypher Rushed. She doesn't have very good map control. That's the biggest issue with her. But she has very, very strong chase. She has good camp, and she also has very quick attack recovery if you use, you know, a 3-stack of webs. But that is why she is an A- tier hunter, because her map presence, you know, and isn't as strong, and she can get Cypher Rushed. The last hunter in A- tier, and the only reason why I'm putting him here is because a lot of people don't know how to play him. If you know how to play him, he could be high A tier. But the next hunter is Mad Eyes, and also the biggest issue with Mad Eyes as well is that in tournament gameplay he's not as strong because survivors, you know, have full communication, and you can also play, you know, if you know the hunters playing Mad Eyes, you can play anti-Mad Eyes characters such as Enchantress, Prospector, Forward, Seer, Priestess, you know, and I'll explain why these characters are good against them. But first of all, Mad Eyes, you might say, for some of you who have tried Mad Eyes and were unsuccessful, you might say, oh, Mad Eyes sucks, he's so bad. And for some of you who have played against a top Mad Eyes and lost, some of you might say, he's totally broken and should be S tier. And both of those opinions are valid, but we're going to get into that right now. So Mad Eyes has very, very good map pressure and Cypher control, because he can literally go on a console and fence off a Cypher machine or start damaging survivors anywhere on the map, and there's nothing they can do about it, all right? Other than decode the console. And that's something that you see a lot, is a lot of survivors will decode the console that they're decoding, you know, near the Cypher machine that they want to decode. They'll decode the Mad Eyes console, waste all the energy on the fences, and then go decode. And then when their Cypher is about 50% of the way done, so halfway, you can go back and waste the energy again. And the Mad Eyes can really not do anything to prevent you. And that's the biggest issue with Mad Eyes, is he can get countered that way. And also, we're going to talk about tournament gameplay and why you can play anti-Mad Eyes characters. And the first one is Enchantress. Basically, the Mad Eyes has to go in his console and be undisturbed to use his console and use his abilities to full effect, right? So an Enchantress can literally just stand next to him and build up stuns while he's on his console. Every time she gets a stun, just stun the Mad Eyes console. and it makes it so he can't keep fencing survivors. That's one. The second one is Prospector. Prospector can literally just stand next to the Mad Eyes, throw magnets, and keep magnet pulling, pushing him into walls or attracting him into walls while he's on the console, and he can never finish the he can never, harass someone with fences. The third one is Seer. The reason Seer literally just can stand there while the Mad Eye's on the console and just farm owls for free, because the Mad Eyes is focused on his console and he isn't really paying much attention to the Seer. And even if you start actually chasing the Seer, which you can kind of force the Mad Eyes to chase you if you're just gonna farm free owls. And once that happens, you're in a very good spot because Mad Eye's chase is very bad. Mad Eye's chase, he's just a regular, hunter. He does have confined space. He can also break pallets very, very fast. He has fastest pallet breaking speed in the game. Good survivors are just kind of, it's that simple. Now, something you can do with Mad Eyes is you can set up fences where you can trap survivors, but you have to be very good with Mad Eyes to do that. But top Mad Eyes can, and again, if you know what you're doing with Mad Eyes and you've mastered Mad Eyes, he is probably one of the best A-tier hunters. However, if you haven't, he's lower tier for sure. The reason why I'm putting him at A- is because he isn't very good in tournaments because there are so many Doctor as well. Doctor just literally Mad Eyes fences Doctor, she'll just heal it off. Like nothing happened. She can heal off her teammates super fast as well. Get rid of the quarter damage that they might have taken from the fence. And in tournament gameplay, survivors can just do that. It's that simple. And that is why Mad Eyes is A- tier. Okay, moving on to A tier. I know I'm taking a long time. We're gonna try to burn through this quickly. The first hunter in A tier is Feaster. I know I had him in A- tier last season, but I've actually been playing a lot with Feaster, and I've noticed how strong he can be and how underrated he really is. Now, the biggest issue with him in something like a top tier scene or competitive gameplay is survivors know how to kite him. They know how to dodge the tentacles, loop the tentacles, and avoid them that way, right? And that's the biggest issue with him. But once you actually get that first down with Feaster, he is very strong, and I'm gonna explain why. Okay, so a lot of top Feasters, including myself when I play Feaster, is they use triple Berserker. So Berserker on the Persona web is kind of in the up and left and off to the left sort of on the Persona web for Hunter. And it makes it so you have, I believe it's, 25% increased attack recovery when a survivor's on the rocket chair. So one Berserker is 15, 2 is 20, I think 3 is 25. So you have super fast attack recovery. So what you do is you put a tentacle on the chair, and then you use another tentacle to find the location of where the survivor is coming from, because the tentacle will point towards the closest survivor who is not on a rocket chair. And you can see a survivor coming, so you hit them from a distance because you can cut them off. You have super quick attack recovery, and you hit them a second time with the tentacle on the chair when the survivor gets to the chair. And you can double hit mercenaries that way, and you can stuff saves. And even if you don't manage to get that, off, if you time your tentacle perfectly, while even if the survivor manages to reach the chair before you can do anything, if you manage to time your tentacle perfectly, you can tentacle the survivor rescuing, and then you won't have attack recovery. So then they'll be able to get the save off because you're in your tentacle throwing down animation, so they can save before you can hit them. Then you hit the rescuer again, and you get the double hit, and then you can go after the other survivor. But again, if it's not a mercenary, you can stuff rescues if you cut them off from a distance as well. So that's something to keep in mind. So Feaster's Chase, if you are patient with your tentacles, is actually very good. His camp is very strong and very underrated. His map pressure isn't too good, but you can actually find where survivors are. And you also run peepers, which you can drop on cipher machines to slow down decoding. But his map pressure is a little bit different because you use tentacles to find where survivors are and where they're coming from, which is actually very strong. And it's not really map pressure, but it's a sort of a map ability that helps you out in a way. It is very hard to deal with as a survivor, and that is why Feaster is in A tier. Lowest hunter in A tier, but he is in A tier. The next hunter in A tier is Bloody Queen. I'm not going to talk too much about Bloody Queen. She used to be S tier. She was nerfed down to A tier because her mirror recharge time takes so long, and her mirror only lasts 13 seconds. Bloody Queen has one of the best chase in the game. She literally has an ability that can go through walls. It's very strong, simple as that. The biggest problem with Bloody Queen is her mirror. She just ties every match. There's no other way to say it. I mean, you just gotta say it. Bloody Queen just ties. And the problem with Bloody Queen is that, again, her mirror takes so long to recharge. It's just, once the mirror comes up, it's so hard to kite out and avoid the mirror. But she just gets cipher rushed. She has normal camp, just average camp, but you can mirror ciphers and slow, down the decoding that way. and maybe hit a survivor if you're lucky, or if you're good, I guess, if you have skill with long distance mirrors. But the problem is her mirror just takes so long to recharge, so she can just essentially get kited for long periods of time. You can never really a good survivor will never get hit by Bloody Queen without using a mirror unless they get blinked. So yeah, that's simply just the biggest downside with Bloody Queen. Is that her mirror takes so long to recharge. She gets Cypher Rush. Even if you have like a perfect game with Bloody Queen, good survivors will always be able to tie you, and that is why Bloody Queen is a low A tier hunter. The next hunter in A tier, I know that I had this hunter in A tier or A minus tier last season, and I think it was warranted. I really think Bonbon, which is this hunter we're talking about, is the biggest problem with Bonbon is he has good chase and the best camp in the game, but all you have to do, he has very bad Cypher control. So all you have to do is pretty much, if someone goes down quickly against a Bonbon, you just don't save, you can usually secure a tie against him. Right? So, and that's Bonbon is a heavy tie hunter as well. And that's why I had him in A minus tier. But a few people complain, they're like, oh, Bonbon's so broke, oh my god, he's the best hunter in the game, blah, blah, blah. He's not the best hunter in the game, but a lot of people did complain about him, so I did move him back up to A tier. And I think it's fine to put him in A tier. And Bonbon is better. Guys, keep in mind, this is a mobile tier list. Bonbon is a lot better on PC. You have better bomb throwing skills. It's harder on mobile with swipe and drop and all that stuff and just spam bombs and whatever. But, and bomb chains are a little bit more difficult on mobile, but that's okay. But yeah, Bonbon is very strong chase if you can chain your bombs properly. He has the best camp in the game. The best camp in the game. He can Bonbon will stuff more saves than any other hunter in the entire game. You can simply just chain a bomb to get you can timer bomb someone, and then just, kind of chain a bunch of bombs on the chair to get the second hit, and then hit them for the stuff. Against a mercenary, you just have to get one extra chain. You can stuff mercs pretty easily. And yeah, Bonbon is, he has very good chase, very good camp. Not very good chase, but he has good chase, very good camp. But the biggest problem with him is his subpar, Cypher control, and that is why he's an A tier hunter. The next hunter in A tier, we have, how much do we have? 5 more to go, or 4 more in A tier and then 1 S tier. The next hunter in A tier is Violinist. Violinist is, we're not going to talk too much about him, but Violinist, if you know what you're doing with Violinist, he has very good chase. You can use the strings to block off, the survivors' pathways, and even if they do manage to dodge, you can just get a regular hit on them. And most survivors will do that to allow for attack recovery, so it gives them a little extra time. Violinist also has very good camp. A survivor comes in for a save. If you land the string on them, follow up with a second hit, you can double hit a mercenary or stuff a rescue. Once he has presence, he has good chase as well. You can use the Rhapsody ability to throw the notes at survivors, which slow them down, like, significantly, and makes it a lot harder to kite him. He can also use that for Cypher control. He can throw the notes at Cypher machines, and it forces the survivors to either take the notes and then remove them, which takes a little bit of time, or just avoid the notes altogether and then go back to decoding afterwards. So he actually has, well, it may not be map pressure necessarily, it is good Cypher control. So Violinist has good chase, pretty good camp, and pretty good Cypher control, and that's why he's just all-around solid A tier hunter. The next hunter in A tier is Wu Chang. And some people might say Violinist should be higher than Wu Chang. I strongly disagree. And this is just based off of, and Wu Chang may not be as strong in tournament gameplay, but because you have, Wu Chang struggles against voice communication because you can tell him, survivors when the Wu Chang is teleporting, where he's going, stuff like that. And you can avoid that, but in, legendary rank mode, tier 6 and above at least, you can only play duos, right? So you can only, for those of you who don't know, once you get to tier 6 and higher, Alicorn or higher, you can only play duos in rank. You can no longer play 4-person team comps. That is legendary rank mode, tier 6 and above. So that's the biggest issue with Wu Chang is 4-person team comps, because you can tell them where they're teleporting. But when you have the element of surprise as a Wu Chang in legendary rank mode and you only have duos, you can teleport on survivors. They can say hunter change targets, but what you can do is essentially just bait the teleport by holding the umbrella, then cancel it, then teleport. You can catch survivors off guard that way. Also, besides Dream Witch, I've noticed that Wu Chang has one of the higher ban rates as well. Mostly on Moonlit River Park, because Wu Chang is a monster on Moonlit. He can teleport anywhere pretty perfectly, and he has good chase on that map as well. So the biggest problem with Wu Chang is getting an early down as survivor. You want to get those. You don't really have to get an early down as a Wu Chang because you have double teleport if you use the teleport trait. You can teleport around the map and cancel all the decoding, and you don't even usually camp with Wu Chang. Sometimes you can just go all around the map and, you know, disrupt decoding that way. But the biggest issue is you know, getting a survivor down at some point is Wu Chang as early as possible. And again, getting that teleport and getting that first hit on a survivor early is very key for Wu Chang in winning games. But again, tournament-wise, Wu Chang isn't as strong. Rank-wise, Wu Chang is very, very good and one of the best hunters for rank gameplay, and that's why he is in A tier. He has, you know, early game his chase isn't good, but once he has present, his chase is absolutely broken. Soul Siphon to catch up survivors is so fast. You have the Bell, which literally just pretty much immobilizes survivors for the most part. Full presence, you teleport on a survivor, they're just dead. They either get siphoned or belled. There's nothing they can do about it. And having teleport trade as an option, you can literally get around huge maps like Moonlit instantly. It's just that good. And that's why Wu Chang is a high A tier hunter. Two more hunters in A tier. The next one in A tier is the Sculptor. Almost done, guys. Keep with me. The next hunter in A tier is Sculptor, and the reason why Sculptor is A tier, it's pretty self-explanatory. Sculptor has, if you know what you're doing as a Sculptor, you have very good chase. Sculptor is very hard to kite sometimes. Her ability can literally cancel Priestess portals. It cancels abilities. It can cancel Priestess portals. It makes it so you can't owl for a split second. If you're being statue, you can't perfume. Whatever happens to be, Sculptor is very good in that way. So she has very good chase. If you know what you're doing, she has very good camp as well. Not quite as good as Bonbon, but it is strong. You can sometimes stuff rescues. Once you have full presence, her camp is very good. It's pretty easy to save off. If you know what you're doing as a rescuer, it's pretty easy to save off a Sculptor when she doesn't have full presence. Once she has full presence, it's a lot more difficult because you can just kind of, you know, double statue and they hit you because if it's close enough, it'll follow you and hit you. And she can do two of those and essentially stuff a rescue that way. She has good chase, good camp, good cipher control because she can throw her chisel on ciphers and, you know, throw the statues on the survivors and blah, 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 you know, while they're decoding. It forces them to stop decoding. And her map pressure is actually good because of that. You can throw chisels on survivors while moving. So if you're going towards a survivor, you can chisel them, throw the chisel on them, and you know, and then walk towards them while spamming them, or not spamming them, but throwing statues at them. Some sculptors just spam them. I'm so used to saying that, but yeah. So Sculptor has good chase. You know, if you know what you're doing with Sculptor, it's very good chase. She's very hard to kite sometimes. Good camp and good cipher control, and she has the three keys to being a good hunter, and that's why she is a high A tier hunter. The next hunter in A tier and the last hunter in A tier is Axeboy. I think I had Sculptor higher than Axeboy last season, but this season I had Axeboy higher, and I'm going to explain why. Axeboy is so... Right now, he's just so strong. It is hard to dodge fireballs. You can look ahead of you, but you have to look ahead of you. You know, they say, everyone's like, oh, look behind you when you kite, but you actually have to look ahead of you a lot of the time when you're playing against Axeboy because you have to look for those fireballs and try to predict which one he's going to use, and you have to dodge them. And sometimes the fireballs can be very hard to dodge. And even if you do manage to dodge them, the Axeboy still gets an insane speed boost for when the fireball reaches him, and he still manages to usually hit you anyway. So Axeboy has very good chase. On top of that, you know, even when you leave the corrupt zones, it's like, oh, I still have a fireball on me. What am I going to do? Two fireballs for that matter. So it really is so hard, you know, going against Axeboy sometimes. Dodging those fireballs is difficult. Even if you do manage to dodge them, you probably will end up getting hit anyway because the Axeboy gets the speed boost. You know, Axeboy has... I'm going to drink some water, dude. I'm talking. Hold on. Water break. 1 sec. Okay. We're back. Axeboy has, you know, he has very good camp because you can fireball a rescuer and hit them and maybe stuff a save that way. If they manage to dodge the fireball, good for them. But it's sometimes those fireballs just come out of nowhere. I swear, it can be tough sometimes. The way you can avoid it is you can see it coming and then dodge it, or what you can do is you can get on the opposite. You can get super close to the Axeboy, like right on top of him, basically, and he pulls the fireball in, and you get on the other side of him. Right, so he pulls the fireball in, but you're on the opposite side of him, so the fireball won't hit. And also, sometimes you can do is you can get it to block the chair. The fireball will hit the chair, hit the rocket chair. So you can sometimes get the Axeboy to pull it into the chair as well, and that can block it for you. So that is one of the ways you can save on Axeboy. But he has good camp and very good chase. You know, on top of that, once he has presence, he can use the paths to get the speed boost as well. So Axeboy outrun is so fast. And then the biggest thing is when Axeboy has full presence. He has, when you leave the corrupt field, when he has full presence, you get slowed down so much. I can't express it enough. You get slowed down so hard, where it's like, you know, you're almost not moving, and the Axeboy will easily just catch up to you. So Axeboy is incredibly fast. It's hard to kite. Once he has full presence, slows you down as well. And he has good camp. So he has good chase, good camp, good map pressure because you can get around the map very quickly with those pathways and pulling in fireballs. Axeboy is literally just, he kind of has the dream of the three abilities, right? You know, map presence, camp, and chase. And that is why Axeboy is the highest hunter in A tier. Moving on to S tier, finally, I'm pretty sure you guys all know who this hunter is going to be. The only hunter in S tier is Dream Witch. I'm pretty sure that was expected, so you guys don't really need me to tell you that, but we're gonna talk about it anyway. Okay, so Dream Witch, most banned hunter in legendary rank mode, most banned hunter in tournament gameplay, most used hunter in tournament gameplay. Not the most used hunter in legendary rank mode, just because one, she gets banned the most, and also, you know, not all hunters know how to how to play Dream Witch because she's very difficult to play. But Dream Witch is the best hunter in the game for a lot of reasons. Let's get into that. One, if you're doing with Dream Witch, you can't really kite a Dream Witch if you get Patroller, because you have a lot of Dream Witches will use like double Patroller. They'll use a Patroller with the main body, and then they'll use a Patroller with the spawn follower. So that's one way you can get survivors down. And a lot of Dream Witches ban Seer for that reason as well, so they only have to double Patroller and you're fine. You know, also you can jump scare survivors, sort of like Wu Chang. You can kind of pull, you know, make the spawn follower walk towards you, and then switch to the spawn right when it gets on top of a survivor, and then get a free hit that way, and then Patroller them and get it down that way. Some Dream Witches will use Blink, so you can, you know, blink them with the leech, blink them with the spawn, or blink with the spawn, blink them with the leech. That's very good. So Dream Witch doesn't really get kited if you know what you're doing with Dream Witch. Dream Witch's camp, believe it or not, is actually very good, because what happens is you leave your spawn follower on the rocket chair, and then you put the leech of the person that you have on the rocket chair at a distance. So you see the rescuer coming, you hit them with the leech from a distance, and you hit them again with the spawn follower on the chair, and you stuff the rescue. And Dream Witch's attack recovery is very fast, especially with Berserker. So you can stuff rescues that way, and then on top of that, sort of like Feaster in a way, right? It's pretty cool how that works. You can stuff rescues that way, or double hit mercenaries that way. Again, with the super quick attack recovery, you can sometimes double hit rescuers as well. And on top of that, the reason why Dream Witch is the best hunter in the game is her map pressure is the best in the game. Even better than Wu Chang. Because what you do is you can just leech multiple survivors, and you literally have like mini hunters all over the map. Right? You can control ciphers, you can camp, you can chase, you can literally chair multiple people at one time. It is so strong. And you know, even if you have 4 survivors up at the exit gate, Dream Witch can still win. Dream Witch can still get a 4-man if you have enough people leech. What you want to do is you want to have 4 people up and remove the leeches all at the same time, so the Dream Witch has nothing to work with. And that's kind of how you beat a Dream Witch. But what Dream Witch will do is she's also super fast, so you can get her on the map very quickly, right? So what she'll do is she will, you know, have multiple leeches. They pop the last cipher, and then you'll have these leeches chase multiple people and get multiple downs with the tension, and it's just so hard for survivors to Dream Witch to deal with. So Dream Witch, because of her, you know, hard to kite and good camp if you know what you're doing, and insane map pressure, she's the best hunter in the game, and she is in S tier and the only hunter in S tier. I know this was a long video, guys, but I did want to talk about the new hunter a lot, so you guys would, you know, have another opinion on that. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about the new hunter. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. As always, if you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.